The Southern Cross Network now presents a live coverage of the Bendigo Easter Fair Street Procession. Here now are Barry Hanson and Diane Cousins.
Good afternoon, everyone. Diane, welcome.
Thank you.
You, having been the Chief Exec Officer of the Easter Fair for, 2 years now, or for two fairs at least?
2 fairs, that's right.
You've done everything that needs to be done with the exception of doing the commentary with me. How do you feel about it? You must be confident. I mean, after all, there's so much to see in the procession.
There is. The weekend's just been superb. There's been so much activity on, and the crowds answer all the confidence queries and concerns you have earlier in the piece.
Yeah. Have you got any way of assessing how many people have come to Bendigo this year?
No, that's
just a guess.
It is a guess. Everyone's guess is as good as the next person's, I think.
Right. Well, we're going to see something spectacular this afternoon because I note in my notes that there are in excess of 100 separate entries.
That's right. It's quite a large procession compared to the last couple of years, and I think it's probably one of the biggest that the fair has had for quite some time.
And a feather in Bendigo's cap is that this year, at least, it's twice as big as Moomba.
That's right. Yeah.
Terrific. Here are some shots of the street. The procession obviously hasn't started yet, but as Diane has said, things have been happening all weekend, and one of the big, really spectacular things is the torchlight procession last night.
That's right.
We'll have a look at some footage that was shot last night now of the torchlight, and there we are. Some of the entries that were in last night's procession appear again today, don't they?
That's right, yes. A lot of people in last night's procession went to a lot of extra effort, to light and illuminate their floats. And there were over 40 entries last night, which was really good to see.
Yeah, that's not, as I said, it's not every float that's in today's procession,
right.
but those who feel that there's no obligation, is there?
No, there's no obligation. It's purely choice by the entrants.
Yeah. It started off, didn't it, as I understand, as I remember from reading my history about the Easter Fair, that it was strictly firemen with their flares and so forth.
It was originally, that's right. The fire brigades still have a heavy involvement in the procession.
Yes. The other parades that have been held, of course, have been the horse and harness, which was held earlier in the week.
That's right. On the Saturday afternoon, we had a horse and youth procession. And that was...
Is that the Parade of Youth I've read about?
The Parade of Youth is actually during the week. That's the March of Youth. So we seem to be growing in the processions.
Yes. Well, that's what people come to see, isn't
that's
it?
Right.
It's free, too. It's wonderful. Free entertainment.
Absolutely, yeah.
So this is last night. What was the route last night that the procession took? To the sports centre, wasn't it?
No, the procession. All the processions this year are following the same route.
Right.
Along Mitchell Street from Myers Street, Mitchell Street to Pall Mall, to McRae Street, and the dispersal was at Chapel Street.
Right, but the culmination of last night's procession, of course, was the fireworks.
That's right.
Yeah. I heard the explosions from where I live, which is a good 10 to 15 kilometres out of town.
Oh, really?
I couldn't see them from home, but I could certainly hear the explosions.
Well, they were pretty spectacular last night, even with the rain.
Right. It seems that the fire brigade, emergency services, police, all those community-type groups have always had a great input into Easter, haven't they?
They have, in so many ways, and especially behind the scenes. There are always qualified people on hand to assist, from St John's to the SES to the police.
And logistically, it wouldn't be an easy thing to put together, especially the big one today. Having everything in line and having the communications between the marshals and so forth.
That's right. It's quite a challenge.
I can imagine. There's a separate committee that organises that, is there?
Yes, there are a number of committees, and the procession obviously itself has a committee especially to control that.
Right. So the procession that went through last night, as I say, culminated in the fireworks display, which was sponsored, I believe, this year by 3BO.
That's right. Yes. And they designed the music which accompanied the fireworks.
Right. Was there a good turnout last night, Dane?
There was. We were a bit concerned about 7:15 when the rain started pelting down on the torchlight procession, and we were just concerned how it would affect the fireworks.
Yeah, we can see a few spots of rain coming down there, as a matter of fact.
But they managed to be covered in plastic, and a few were lost to bad weather, but generally I think the display was quite...
Well, as I said to you before we came on air, I've been describing the procession for 15 years now, and there's never been a day, and there's never been an occasion, a Monday at least, over that period of time when the procession had to have been called off due to bad weather.
Yeah.
So today's no exception. It's sort of sunny and cloudy in spots in Bendigo, but it's looking good.
Generally fine, yeah. That's what we need.
And the big problem, of course, is that if there is rain, we can't have the dragon out. And the dragon, whatever anyone thinks, seems to be, you know, the major part of the procession. The Easter Fair Society presented a banner to the Chinese Association this year. What was that?
That's
for?
right. Earlier in the week it was to commemorate two events that were particularly important. One was the 120th anniversary of the Chinese Association in Bendigo working with the Bendigo Easter Fair, and the other, of course, was to commemorate the opening of the beautiful Chinese Golden Dragon Museum.
Wonderful building, isn't it?
Oh, breathtaking inside.
Yeah, fabulous. Because the history of the Easter Fair and the Chinese have been entwined, really, for all that length of time, haven't they?
Right back to day one, I think, when the Easter Fair consisted of the dragon procession.
Well, it seems there was something to cater to every taste in the procession last night. We ranged from bands to play Hare Krishna people. Were they in there, or were they something else?
I think they were Bongo Mania with the Bendigo pottery.
I see. And the marching girls, of course. No praise complete without the marching girls.
No, absolutely not.
And these are the things that you can't sort of buy with money, aren't they?
That's
the
right.
participation of people.
That's right. This is up at the fireworks. Itchy Feet Pep Band were entertaining before the fireworks actually started.
Who was this band name?
This is Itchy Feet Pep Band.
Right. Where are they based?
They're based in Melbourne, actually.
Here we are, back in town again. That was last night, of course, and today's today.
And the sun is still shining, I hope.
The procession hasn't actually started yet, so whilst we have a minute to do so, we'll go to a commercial break, I think, and come back to the Bendigo Easter Fair.
Paying off a home loan can be such a struggle. You think you'll never get there, with the interest load usually heavier than the loan itself. But with a mortgage savers account from the Bendigo, your savings work to directly pay off the loan and thereby lessen the interest burden. So you pay off your home much quicker and for a lot less money. The mortgage savers account from the Bendigo Building Society. Everyone with a mortgage should be this lucky.
Right, back at the Bendigo Easter Fair. There's another crowd shot, of course. For those who know Bendigo, those who live out of Bendigo, the way that our setup is set up is that the cameras are based around the fountain in the centre of Bendigo and facing up Mitchell Street. Is that right, Day? Up Mitchell Street.
That's right.
Waiting for the procession to come down that way. And some of the other enjoyable things obviously available at the Easter Fair, donuts.
Very popular.
And if we can see we'll see a longer shot shortly along Mitchell Street, and we'll be able to see the procession coming into view. In the meantime, how does one join the Bendigo Easter Fair? Are people actually members of the Easter Fair, Day?
Yes, the Easter Fair is an incorporated association open to public membership, and membership is only $10. We have some nice benefits for members, as well as them having the opportunity to support the festival.
Right.
There are various commercial benefits from discounts and free products, free passes to the festival and events. And all that can be arranged through the fair office in the town hall in Littleton Terrace.
The real benefit for those anticipating joining, of course, are not really the benefits they receive, but sort of being part of the community. doing things. Do you call on your membership to do lots of things, or,
Well,
or are they not?
the members have the opportunity to be more involved. It's up to them.
Right.
We're always looking for people. You can never have too
course.
many hands to help out.
That's right. Well, the procession has started. They're coming into view now. Traditionally, it's headed off by the police,
That's right.
followed by, what do we see coming up there behind the police? Captain Koala, he's always on deck as well, right at the
That's
start
right.
of the procession.
Captain Koala, he goes ahead of the procession to alert the crowds that the fire brigades are conducting a fairly major fundraising activity, selling lucky envelopes.
Right.
And everyone should support the fire brigades. You unfortunately never know when you might need them.
Certainly not. Alan Williams is also an integral part of the procession. Alan's been around for a long time,
Well,
hasn't
that's right. We wouldn't be able to hear half of the things we can without Alan Williams.
he? Right, and Alan also has a pride of place at the head of the procession,
Absolutely.
in which he advises the kids to keep behind the honour lines and so forth.
That's right. For their own safety more than anything else. I mean,
Yep.
you never know with the vehicles, and there are some unusual animals in this year's procession, so
Right.
you never know what's
Unusual
coming
animals. Goodness.
up. Yes, we'll have to have a look later.
We certainly shall. So here it is, the banner bearers for the Southern Cross Network Grand Street procession, and we're underway in earnest now. The police and horses come from Melbourne every Easter, don't they?
They do. They also have pride of place at the start. I think if we didn't have the mounted police,
Yep.
a few people would let us know.
Right. It's traditional, isn't it? It's something
It is.
that's happened over the years.
That's right.
That's the way to do it.
Just behind the procession banner, we have one of the platforms from the Country Fire Authority. They carry over 4,000 litres of water and have an enormous ladder reach on them for
Right.
high fire dangers in buildings.
The thing that intrigues me is all these people who do these honorary things, you know, the banner bearers and so forth, where do they all come from? Are they all volunteers as well?
Generally they are. Mostly we have people from scouting organisations. A few people we employ the ambassadors, and the ambassadors are the girls that are carrying the
Right.
sponsors banners at the head of the procession this year, and they've been working over the weekend helping the tourists find where they need to go.
Right, because it's not just for the benefit of Bendigo locals, this procession, is it? I mean,
No.
it must do wonders in terms of tourism for
That's
the
right.
district.
Yeah, we have an enormous number of tourists. Accommodation is virtually impossible to find.
Is that true?
It is. I was looking during the week for one of the clowns that we had booked, who was arriving on Sunday night, and we had a dreadful time trying to find him somewhere to sleep.
The Country Fire Authority you mentioned, the band coming into view there, of course, is the Clan McLeod.
That's right. They were formed in 1953, and they have members from 12 years to 80 years. They're also known as the Chinese Pipe Band. They always accompany
Really?
the Chinese component of the procession, as well as being involved in the, very integrally involved in the Chinese Museum.
Bendigo wouldn't be Bendigo without the pipe bands, would
No, they.
it? Somehow there are how many are there, do you know?
I think there are about 8, but
And they all seem to appear in the Easter procession,
they
don't they?
do,
every
yes.
year?
What would processions be without the bands?
Oh, certainly. Bands, marching girls.
That's
what we
right.
need. That's what we need. So they're the Clan McLeod. Right, and following the Clan McLeod, of course, I thought it was going to be the Mayor of Bendigo. That's definitely not Jim Douglas, is it?
No, it certainly doesn't look like James.
There's the Shire President of Strath, anyway, Councillor Grenfell. And 2 of our camera people. All the 5 municipalities are represented in the Easter procession, of course.
That's right.
The heads of state, as it were, of each of the municipalities.
That's right.
From Eagle Hawk, Councillor Willie Carney. The car that you see now, I understand, is from the Shire of Morong, carrying Councillor Frank
Councillor
Collins. And the Shire President of Huntley.
Councillor Sharkey and Mrs. Sharkey, yes. 2 hands waving in there.
Now, The Gas and Fuel Authority have always gone right out, haven't they?
They
to
have.
provide a spectacular entry in this procession, and also at Moomba, of course.
That's right. In fact, this year they're just following behind Councillor Sharkey here, and they have pulled out all the plugs for this year's procession.
Right. We'll see the
The
results
float,
of that.
yes, the float is just unbelievable.
There you go, the civic dignitaries. Councillor Sharkey, I understand there. And Mrs. Sharkey. And here we are, the Gas and Fuel. What's it to pick, Di?
This year, they're illustrating the gas and fuels concern with the environment, and the float is the wonder of the nocturnal world with owls, possums, and all sorts of animals and creatures.
Those who come alive under the full moon.
That's right.
Isn't that spectacular?
How many hours have gone into preparing this?
Yes.
How many hours?
Oh, they're all animated too, the beasts on the float.
And we have the moon at the back of the entry.
So there's the Gas and Fuel. Coco the Magic Clown's in there somewhere too.
Somewhere between, this is the McDonald's Moomba Youth Band. They're a crowd favourite. They've been coming to Bendigo since they formed in 1978, and they were of course formed for the Melbourne Moon Festival.
These are all young people, I imagine.
They are, yes, all aged from 13 to 25.
And making an international tour later in the
They
year.
are. This year, later in the year, they'll be going to Geneva. So that's quite a big move for
Yes.
a local Melbourne youth band. Very impressive.
And the Bendigo Sunbeams Marching Club. The girls have recently come third in the state championships. Best team and third state champions in best freestyle. They also won the Northern Zone Championships, and their ages range from 5 to 12 years.
A lot of concentration involved with their routines.
I'll say. They've obviously been award winners too. They're the badges they've won.
They're the medals, that's right. Pride of place.
And these
This
are
is
the
some
members of the...
These would be the junior members of the club, yes. I think it's a bit of too far for them to march.
Yeah, it is a fair hike, isn't it?
It is, quite
around
a
the total route
distance.
of the procession. And this year, of course, there was an innovation. I have to assume that it was your idea, Di, or someone's, that the past popular girls got together, a reunion.
That's right. On the first Sunday of the festival, which was a week ago from yesterday, we had a reunion of popular girls from 1990 back to 1930.
Goodness
We
me.
had over 130 girls involved.
Have they been happy to attend? They had a good time?
Oh, they were delighted.
Have many of the people Bendigo people, or were they a lot of them gone further afield than that?
About half and half. Still in town, and here we can see the 1901st popular girl, Bessie Bryant. And she was popular girl in 1930.
Not this girl here. They're in the back of the car.
In the back of the car, that's right.
I was going to say, she's held her age very, very well. From 1937, Ywca Ryan. The names we have may not necessarily have been the names they had in those days, am I right? Or are these married names?
These are married names.
Right.
These are their current names.
Right, so from 1937, there's Ywca Ryan in the back. Where did those wonderful cars come from? A vintage car club?
A vintage car club, yes, and the Rotary Club of Bendigo have actually been involved in organising the girls. It's quite a big job, and friends and members of the club, as well as friends of the girls, have all joined in together for the entry.
Right.
So there are quite a few vehicles involved.
Right. If I'm not mistaken, in that car is Dol Spooner, who is from Sydney.
That's right. And she's been down for a week. She came to the ball last week and the reunion and stayed for the procession, which is wonderful.
Right. From 1945, Elaine Fairless. And 1946, I think, also, Una Burke. No, Ywca's in the Morris. They must have had a wonderful time reminiscing.
Oh, they did. In fact, we had the venue changed from a smaller venue to the town hall, and it was standing room only.
Really?
From 1947, we have Nancy Norman.
And being well received by the crowd too.
I think they're all pretty proud to be involved.
I think Betty Coffey, 1950 perhaps, am I right? It's a bit difficult.
It is a bit difficult.
1969 anyway was Helen Brennan. With a passenger who certainly wasn't around in 1969.
Absolutely not. We also have Ruth Dennis from 1969 and Joan Whittle here in this little sports car.
1972 was Joan.
1975, we have Rhonda Williamson, and 1981, Diane Cooper. And I think we might have had a few other girls just join us on the day.
Bendigo and District Playgroups. This is an association of playgroups. It's a voluntary committee for all playgroups in Bendigo and the surrounding district. The playgroup movement is based on the concept of parent and child socialising and playing together. And the children here are accompanied by homemade musical instruments.
They've been working very hard decorating their float too, making the instruments and their costumes.
And enjoying every minute of it.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about.
Santos Drummers.
They're a local drumming group, and they were formed just recently to support the local parades and, of course, to promote Bendigo. Now, the drummers are aged between 7 and 15 years, so they're quite young. And the band is actually named after the young drummers who arrived in Santos Town in the 1850s as part of the military establishment at Camp Hill.
Drum and fife bands, weren't they, in those days, of course?
That's right, yeah. Have some stern faces there, concentrating hard. Cherie O'Donoghue, who's Northern United Football Club's popular girl this year. Cherie raised $16,310.71.
And became the highest money raiser?
No, she isn't, in fact.
Right.
This year's queen is Miss Jessica Hutchinson from Eaglehawk North Primary School, who raised the amazing amount of $17,146.56.
That really is stunning, given the straitened economic times, isn't it?
That's right, amazing effort. Here we can see Buckley's 44.
Actually, the girls must have raised, close to 40 maybe $50,000.
$58,000, over $58,000, which is a super effort.
That float that the girls were on, of course, was entered by the Bendigo Base Hospital.
Yes, the hospital have been preparing the popular girls' floats for quite a while, and that's their pride.
Yeah, there's sort of a perception, isn't there? There are really 4 organisations have to do with the Bendigo Easter Fair. There's the Bendigo Easter Fair itself, there's the Chinese Association, there's what is now called the Ann Caudle Centre, and the hospital. They seem to be the mainstays of the procession, at least. Now, what do we have here, Diane?
We have the Phoenix Roller Dancers.
Right.
And they're aged from 7 to 17 years, and today they've got a combination of dance and skating, which looks very difficult.
I would think so, especially over the tram tracks.
Absolutely.
Actually, while I was blathering on there, some other floats went through. The Easter Ferry, Faye Wilson, the Easter Ferry, I think, went through, and we unfortunately didn't mention it. But now coming into view is a Cobb & Co coach.
One of the descendants of the original Ben Hall is still operating the Cobb & Co coach company.
Really?
And he's got rides in Littleton Terrace during the festival, which look fun. He's got quite a few passengers there, though.
I think so. Entry number 21 is some familiar-looking people from the Southern Cross Network, of course. Paul and Sue, or Molly and Sue, I beg your pardon. Followed by
Pulcinella, who is played by Christoph. Pulcinella is a 500-year-old clown who originated in Naples in Italy.
And there's another part of the Southern Cross Network entry. It's using the theme of the Addams family, seen on Channel 8, of course, every afternoon at 4. Staff members, unrecognisable. They don't look like anyone I've seen around the passages of Channel 8.
My goodness me.
There we are, Morticia and the mob. And also Mel Walden and David Johnston from the Channel 10 newsroom in Melbourne. Their news, of course, we take on relay. There we are.
I can't see that glass.
But they look to be enjoying themselves, Diane.
And, of course, our local news team, Alan Besley, Helen Ballard.
And Paul Schreiber.
And Paul.
Oh, we're going to have photos taken now. This is terrible. Q, hello.
Hi.
Q. Hi, how are you? Hello. Hello.
Helen, of course, won the award this year, the Penguin Award, for the best regional personality in the country.
What a prestigious achievement.
That certainly was. Camels. I can pick what they are. They're camels.
They are.
They're operating rides too.
That's
on
right,
the streets.
in Hargrave Street.
There's
There's a
some of the
library.
unusual animals you said.
That's right, there are more to come.
In the library gardens, they're doing rides, don't they?
Yes, just near the library gardens between the town hall and the library.
Another stalwart of the Easter procession, of course, is the Strathfields Hay Band.
Theme is music, music, music. So bands are really have pride of place in this year's procession.
Well, there's certainly plenty of it. The Strath Band is followed by the Cherokees Marching Girls. And there they are. They've been together only a relatively short time, only 4 years, and they've recently competed in the Australian national titles.
And they're, of course, displaying their years of medals, and there are quite a few there just for a 4-year troop.
And a little piece of history here, the Australian Light Horse.
A very nice piece of history too, worth preserving. The Light Horse Association have formed, dedicated to keeping the history of the Light Horse alive. Now, of course, the Light Horse were involved in the Great War from 1914 to 1918.
That was a really great war, that one.
As far as wars go?
Yes. And obviously the real participants are long gone, or most of them have, I think, by now.
Yes.
And these people are keeping the legend alive.
They are. In fact, they're very attentive to detail. All their costuming and all the decorations of the horses are all authentic.
The SES, the State Emergency Service, another organisation which no one seems to doubt, of course, that they're such an important part of the community. They do all sorts of work for the SES, don't they? They're involved in bushfires and floods and droughts and all sorts of things. Road accidents too, of course, I suppose, would be their biggest
Unfortunately,
work.
yes. The voluntary service is on call 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, so that involves a lot of people. In their procession entry this year, they've got road accident rescue vehicles, a road accident backup vehicle, and a wind, storm and water rescue vehicle. They also have a trailer, which is a fully equipped underwater rescue trailer.
Now, the entry from the Association for the Blind, eh?
Their entry this year is a bus decorated to symbolise music makes colourful sense. And I think their message is fairly bright.
I think so.
And here we have Rocky Weston and his horse, Shawnoo.
Well, Rocky, I think, has been in the procession for many a long year now, too.
For as long as I can remember.
Yes. And the Bendigo Pottery have a very interesting exhibit this year.
They do indeed.
This is the one you mentioned before. They appeared last night in the
That's right.
in the Torchlight.
Their entry depicts jungle mania. Apparently Bongo Mania has broken out with pygmies, hula girls and animals dancing to the beat. And of course at the back in a grass hut is a huge pot on the boil. They might grab some people from the crowds and boil them up for pygmy stew.
They've also taken the procession theme to heart, of course, with music, music, music.
They have indeed. What a lot of effort they've put in. Here we have tandem bike riders from the Loddon Hospital's Central Linen Service. On Good Friday, they rode from Bendigo to Melbourne. They raised $2,322 for the Royal Children's Hospital. And they actually rode over 5 hours in 15-kilometre relay teams. And
They would have, yeah, they would have had to train for a while.
They would have trained. In fact, when they came into the office, they mentioned that they'd been training for over 4 months. So.
Are they professional bike riders?
No, they're local people working in the hospital linen service.
Oh, I see. I see.
And here we have the Bendigo Tramway's entry, a 1890 cable car dummy.
With more music.
Absolutely.
Is that Bendigo's tram, Di?
No, the car was built in Melbourne and actually operated in Melbourne until 1935. It's on loan today from the Tramway Museum Society of Victoria and is usually on display at the Bendigo Tramway Museum.
Now, that's obviously a proper band. It's not just sort of
no,
people picking up an instrument and playing.
That's right. The Flora Hills Secondary College Band are accompanying the entry this year.
We'll put a tourism plug in here. The Torquay trams are operating over Easter, I imagine.
They are, yes,
right.
Over the Easter weekend and, of course, during the week and the last week of the festival.
The Central Victoria Junior Motocross Club. Members of the club there displaying their interest and their hobby. A very big sport in this district.
It is, actually. I think it's growing.
Whatever else the procession might be, you certainly can't accuse it of being anything less than extremely colourful, though. And coming up now is an entry from Goldfields Community Radio, 3CCC. And they're depicting the services provided over 8 years by 3CCC, recording and promoting local musicians. They're using a rather magnificent old truck there too. I don't have any detail on the vehicle, but it's the. Well, I do have some information actually. It's the Northwest Regional Ambulance Service, and this must be one of the originals, I'd say, an old one and a new one.
A 1926 Dodge, I understand, that was in service until 1953. Now, of course, we have the latest fully equipped ambulance, manned, of course, by our highly qualified officers, and with all the modern technology and advanced training, the service offers the people of Bendigo a very highly professional service.
Now, I'm looking forward to seeing 3BO's entry, actually, with Peter Blight as Mick Jagger, Darren Kirby as Elvis Presley, Carolyn Ferguson as Dolly Parton, Tim Hind as Angus Young, Robin Jackson playing Cher, and the Quavers, played by Lisa Millard and Jodie Shelton, and there they are. They'd do anything for a quid, those people. They really would.
My goodness.
Peter Black comes up very, very well as Mick Jagger. But I bet he'll get sick of doing that by the time the procession's over.
He might just.
There's Angus.
And Elvis. And right into the spirit of it.
That's Dolly, I imagine.
Must
I can't
be.
see her. Oh, yes, it certainly is.
Dolly Parton. And they have a giant radio on the move with, of course, with their stars. Here we have a
Ian
1928 vintage Buick, yeah, from Ian Kimpton. It's the Ascension College Band. This is in fact the band's first public performance, led by Graham Phillips. Here we have
Dorothy
Dorothy
Casey.
Casey.
Dorothy's not doing it as we see her there, but she's entertaining children along the route with singing and handmade puppets.
And here we have the Bendigo Education Radio Group.
This is an aspiring FM stereo radio group working towards obtaining a special purpose licence covering education. The group caters for a wide audience covering topics at all age groups. The next test transmission will be in June.
Now we can see the Ywca Calisthenics Club with members from 3 to 16 years, and they're learning a variety of skills from song and dance, folk dance, graceful movement, and of course gym exercises.
And bright little faces.
Aren't they just? I think it would be very exciting for them to be inside in the middle of the procession.
Ywca Calisthenics group. Norm Simpson and his VW. An original condition VW Beetle. That looks like a newie, doesn't it?
It does. It's been very well looked after.
Phil Beer always puts in something exciting in the
He
procession, doesn't he?
does. Today he is doing Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And on his float we can see the Wicked Witch, Snow White, the Woodcutter, and of course the Seven Dwarfs.
This entry was also in the Torchlight. I noticed that going through last night.
Phil always goes to a lot of effort for the procession. And I think people look forward to his
Yes.
entry. It's always a very pleasant surprise. Followed here by the Bendigo Ice Raiders, and they're in
Yeah.
fact the first country team to win the Victorian Ice Hockey Grand Final.
Now, this is a sport that started to take off.
It's-
One would hardly think so in central Victoria that ice skating, that ice hockey would be the go, but it certainly is.
The club is expanding, and obviously by the demonstrations here, they're probably looking for more members.
I think so. They're extremely well padded, aren't they? Now an entry, I think the next entry is from the Bendigo Country Talent Club. What is the Country Talent Club, Di? They're people who are interested, I suppose, in country music.
That's
and,
right. People who are interested in playing and listening to country music.
And
They're
they've
a
won an
local
award.
club. They've won 2 awards, the
Ah,
best
right.
community entry and the most outstanding entry overall. So tremendous effort. And the awards today are sponsored by Southern Cross Network and Coca-Cola.
taken an old-time theme, obviously. Oh, a riverboat theme. Now, a lot of work's gone into that too, I'd
Hasn't
suggest.
there?
With
Yes.
garlands of flowers and so forth.
Here we have the Bendigo Bullet.
This is a racing truck.
And it's transporting, yes.
Right.
And it's very big. In fact, when we were looking through the entries, we needed 2 photographs because it didn't fit into one photo. So we
Right.
had to join 2 together to have a look at it.
These trucks actually race, do they?
Apparently, yes. Here we have the 3BO Bug.
Driven by...
Captain Wazza, I think. He's the character that's always zooming around town giving things away.
And the City of Bendigo Brass Band.
The drum major today is Janine Craven and the bandmaster is Len Ryan.
What a great day it's turned out to be, that sunshine.
Look at the sun, isn't it beautiful? Here we can see the Oriental Lotus and Golden Phoenix marching girls.
Are these girls connected in any way to the Chinese Association? I think not. Perhaps
By
they're-
name.
Right. They just returned from the national competitions in Melbourne. Led by the Golden Phoenix Marching Girls, the club has formed a junior team, the Oriental Lotus. They're the juniors. And the Ford Mustang Owners Club of Australia are coming into view there. It wasn't a terribly popular car in this country, too expensive, I feel. But obviously there are some aficionados there because there are 4 entries. 4 Mustangs in pristine condition.
First
And-
one we can see is a 1967 Convertible. And that's followed by a 1966 Coupe. Does that sound right?
That sounds right to
I'm
me.
no expert with vehicles.
That's what it is.
And that's followed by a 1969 red Convertible.
And the 4th and final is a 1970 Mach 1.
Mach 1, what a name.
Supposed to note that it goes at the speed of sound or something or other, I imagine.
I see.
Neighbourhood Watch, another community-orientated group. They're depicting Jailhouse Rock, in line with this year's procession theme, of course, which is music, music, music. As I said, those Mustangs are in absolutely immaculate condition, aren't they? Beautiful.
They've been
Tender loving care.
a lot of that, a lot of it. Some proud owners driving their cars.
Certainly. And as I said, Neighbourhood Watch. Jailhouse Rock. I can't see the back of it yet, but I assume it's based on the Elvis Presley hit of the same name.
I would suggest so too.
I rather suspect Elvis will go on forever, won't he?
I think so.
In the year 2020. Another regular entrant. Are we coming into shot with it now? I think, yeah, Roy Raggett's bread delivery unit.
That's right.
From
That
the
was
40s.
the cart he used in the 40s and 50s. Restored with more tender loving care.
It's in beautiful condition, isn't it? It's lovely.
Yes. In fact, he couldn't enter last year's procession. He had some problems with the wheels, and he was so attentive to detail that he wouldn't use an unauthentic piece of equipment.
Right.
And here we have the Victoria Police booze bus.
This is the best place to see a booze bus, of course, in a street procession, I would suggest.
I think so. I'm sure they've been working very hard over the weekend.
Thomas the Tank Engine. That'll be a favourite with the kids in the crowd, I'd suggest.
Absolutely. Sponsored and brought to Bendigo today by Maya Bendigo.
It must be one of the most popular kids' novelty things in many years, Thomas the Tank Engine.
Following Thomas is Don and Marion McKinnon with Toby, which is a border Leicester Merino sheep.
Very well-trained sheep, I'd say.
It looks like it. And they're drawing a cart made from recycled materials.
And the Bendigo McDonald's Bendigo Braves. Basketball team, of course, the senior Braves men's team, dressed in the team colours of blue and gold. And there's Toto, an essential part of the Bendigo Braves, of course. Toto is a cheerleader extraordinaire. Braves themselves. From Catholic College Bendigo, the focus is on education for youth. Students involved in depicting various musical productions.
Some of the musicals they've produced, Grease, we can see, and Oliver. This entry next coming into view is the Taxis Association, in tune with the community 24 hours a day.
Very attractive bride and groom.
Indeed. And that's, of course, one of the modern taxis.
And the Victoria Police Band, who also are kind enough to visit most years.
They are. The band is got a big following all over the state, and of course it's made up of members, serving members of the police force.
A long history, 1891.
That's right. The band primarily assists with charity events around the state and, of course, at federal and civic functions.
Right, and as the Victoria Police Band goes by, we'll go to a break. Back in just a moment.
If you were making the perfect account, you'd want a free checkbook. With a Visa... From the Bendigo Building Society.
Right, back at the Easter Fair, of course. We have an entry, the Gnome Factory.
The Gnome Factory's from Holden, and they're showing some of the creatures they make for the gardens, Australia animals, swans, and Snow White for a second appearance. Thanks, Warren. Here we can see
3CV?
the 3CV Tarago with, I understand there are 2 Easter bunnies somewhere around there. Now we can see the Bethlehem Home for the Aged entry. Let's Waltz with Strauss. Excuse me. Best decorated entry this year. And they're depicting a lovely garden setting with couples waltzing, of course, to Strauss.
Now that reminds me a lot of floats that we used to see a lot of in years past, with all those acres and acres of paper flowers.
Paper flowers.
That people sat up till 3 o'clock in the morning putting together.
That's right. Here we have the Itchy Feet Pep Band.
Well, tell us all about them.
Well, they first appeared in Bendigo last year at the festival, and they were so popular, we've got them back again. They're a really unique band who break all the rules of precision marching with music and humour. They'll also be performing this afternoon after the procession in Roslyn Park.
They're being surprisingly straight at the moment. They'll burst out in just a moment.
Making a liar of me. You can see here Peter Gray, who was the leader of the band. And just behind the Itchy Feet Band, we can see the Fratellini brothers, who are performing their famous routines, a local band of clowns.
Performing this afternoon as well?
Not this afternoon, they were on yesterday. I think they need a rest today.
After doing that, I'd imagine you'd be right.
I'd need a rest too, if I could do it. And here we can see Phil Melgard, who is involved with Short Circus and the Fratellini brothers.
Obviously popular with the crowd too, Diane.
Very. Here we have a llama. Central Victoria's first llama, I think.
Is it a real llama?
It's a real live llama. Remember those unusual animals I was telling you about? In fact, 160 llamas are going to be released from quarantine for an industry being set up in central Victoria. The llama is going to be farmed for its wool, used for pack animals and novelty rides. Now, this llama's name is Ringo.
What a pretty looking face it's got. I've never seen one close up. Ringo the llama, eh? Whitehill Secondary College?
They were the winners of the Peter's Ice Cream Students' Parade, which was held the first Wednesday last week. And they won the best secondary school entry, and here we can see them proudly parading their banner. That's right. They
make that banner themselves, I
They do.
imagine.
The students make the banners, and the competition is judged as a part of the students' parade with the schools involved.
Have they given a theme for the banners? every year?
No, there's no theme, no restrictions on what the form the banner takes. It's an open to interpretation competition.
The Bendigo Speedway Club displaying their cars and their trophies. Another enormously popular sport for the participants and spectator event for the spectators, of course.
That's right. It has a very big following. See the entries turning into Pall Mall from Mitchell Street.
That's about halfway along the route, I'd imagine.
Almost, yeah, dead centre.
Another pipe band. I'm not sure which one this is. The Bendigo, I'd rather think. If indeed it is the Bendigo Pipe Band, and I'm almost sure it is. They were formed in 1937, another band with a fair amount of history. The first public appearance was at the 1938 Easter Parade. I imagine the the musicians have changed a bit since then.
I would expect so.
Baton twirler.
This is Carol Streckfus, who's 5 times Victorian and Australian 2 baton twirler, 3 times Victorian adult solo champion, and 2 times best leader of Victoria. Carol's been twirling those batons for 23 years.
Tuckerbag, the local supermarket, of course, and a 1924 Model T.
And there's Tucker. And just coming into view now is the Anne Caudle Centre float.
Formerly known, I think, originally as the Bendigo Benevolent Asylum, I think, and there's been several name changes since.
There has
now it's
been.
the Anne Caudle Centre. Anne Caudle, of course, was the wife of one of the Goldfields doctors who used to traipse around the mud and the mire and the dust collecting money to look after, to raise money to look after destitute miners and children and what have you. So there it goes, the entry from the Anne Caudle Centre.
Now we can see the Bendigo Dance Studio, which was established 28 years ago. And they're demonstrating all aspects of dancing. And that dance is, they think, the world's most universal way of communicating.
Well, I can hear taps.
So can I. And here we have an entry from Magorshi Upholstery, musical chairs.
That's a novel use.
Isn't it indeed? Isn't it indeed? We can see a 1928 Hudson van here, towing a couple more musical chairs moving down the street.
I think all that information I was giving out before about the Bendigo Highland Pipe Band was totally wrong, because I think this is the Bendigo Highland Pipe Band.
This may well be the case. There are always last-minute changes with the procession
Of course.
assembly when somebody needs to be close to music and somebody needs to be quite distant from music because of animals or any number of things. Bendigo Highland Pipe Band hasn't missed an Easter parade since they formed in, as we said earlier, 1937.
The Guides and Brownies.
Their entry this year is the William Tell Overture, and the entry includes, of course, William Tell shooting a target with sponsorship from Pizza Hut. I think we can see a few life-size onions and capsicums and pizza ingredients.
The odd piece of cheese, the odd capsicum, as you say.
Now we can see the Brownies and Guides mascot, followed by the TS Naval Reserve Cadets.
Complete with yacht.
A Corsair yacht, I understand.
The yacht, of course, is accompanied, as you can see, by a contingent of the reserves. front now, participants from the G&L Pierce School of Ballroom Dancing. They were to demonstrate 3 styles of ballroom dancing, actually, the old-time, modern and Latin styles.
I think that'd be a bit difficult on the
I
back
think
of
so,
the
on a moving
float.
track.
Yes, goodness. They've also got a few of their trophies displayed on their entry as well. And here we have Interchange, which is a community-based program giving support to families who have disabled children. They arrange a host caregiver to care for the child 1 weekend per month. And the caregiver, of course, hosts the child in their own home.
Here we are, the second part of the interchange, an old Falcon in very good condition. And the Uniting Church of Kennington.
This entry is totally redecorated in recycled material. And the church is launching an appeal with the youth orchestra and singers.
Candy and Easter eggs and what have you for the kids.
And here we can see the Morong Municipal Hopetoun Band. Following the band is the Central Victorian Gospel Radio.
And a contingent there from the Loddon-Campaspe Regional Committee for the Special Olympics. Athletes from the Loddon-Campaspe region Special Olympics displaying the medals they won at the 1990 National Special Olympics in December. The Special Olympics, of course, is designed to bring intellectually disabled people into the mainstream of life. And they did very well. The group did very well at the Special Olympics.
They did indeed. Following the Special Olympics entry is the Bendigo Region Safety House. And their slogan, of course, is feeling unsure, knock on a safety house door. Safety House program is designed to establish a network of safety houses within a local area where children can seek refuge if they unfortunately meet with trouble on their way to or from school. And of course, more information about the Safety House program can be obtained from your local primary school.
Following the children from the Bendigo Region Safety House entry is the Golden City Pipe Band, I hope. Yes, I'm right with the band again. There we go.
Spot on. This week the band celebrates its 40th birthday. They formed in 1941 and the band wears the Royal Stuart tartan. In fact, this weekend former band members from all over Australia have been playing with the band to mark this very special anniversary. And there we can see one of the very junior members, with the honour of carrying the procession number. Entries from the Lutheran Youth Access Group, and this bus is called The Joint. The bus is promoting the Lutheran Youth Access Group's theme, The Joy of Living, and we can see there the clowns and music accompanying the entry.
And as the Lutheran group go off into the distance, to be shortly followed by the balance of the parade, we'll go to a commercial break. Back in just a moment.
Are you worried about being dragged down by home loan repayments? There is a friend who will give you honest, independent advice on lightening the home loan load. The Bendigo Building Society can advise you how home loans can be personally tailored for you, how the mortgage savers account can shorten your repayments by years, and how simple a home loan at the Bendigo can be. A home loan from the Bendigo Building Society. It's never easy, but it can be simple.
Here we are back at the Bendigo Easter Fair Grand Procession, and it is a grand procession. It's absolutely chock full of entries, isn't it? As we said at the start, I mean, there are in excess of 100 entries, but...
That's right. And we can see here a 1991 VN Holden Commodore Convertible. Now, this is from the National Holden Museum at the Bendigo Tourist Complex, and it's the only one of its kind.
It looks very good, doesn't it? And the Commodore was never really designed as convertible.
No, it wasn't indeed.
Bendigo Rockin' 50s. 50s cafe, complete with a larger-than-life Wurlitzer jukebox by the Bendigo Rockin' 50s Rock and Roll Club. With cars of the period too, an old Ford Custom Line. Once again, an absolutely immaculate condition. Say anything, I don't think. No. So there they are, the members of the Bendigo Rockin' 50s.
Now we can see the entry from Ascension College, and their entry is highlighting the children's musical production Colby, which is about a musical computer.
The Eagle Hawk North Primary School, they've taken as their entry theme the Secret Garden, a famous story, of course, about a little girl who finds a door which leads into a secret garden. I'm still amazed at the amount of work a lot of people have put into these entries. They're really quite terrific.
Aren't they super? So much detail and so many hours. spent making those flowers again, and of course all the other costume details.
The Kaylee Dance Studio is in shot there, followed by the entry from the Bendigo Umpires Association. The Kaylee Dance Studio are performing routines to hit parade music with tap dancing and jazz ballet.
Bendigo's the fair and you'll go raffle on $2 a ticket.
More children from the dance studio.
Here we can see the Blues Brothers by the Bendigo Umpires Association. Following the Umpires Association entry is an entry from the Epsom Tourist Market.
A Wandering Dutchman, a one-man band, a miniature merry-go-round and a mini market, all representing the atmosphere at the Epsom Tourist Market, which is another event that has become a big tourist draw card in the region.
Yes,
Oh, those
every
paper flowers
weekend,
again, Diane. Look at them, millions of them.
Every Sunday, the tourist market operates out at Epsom, just off the Midland Highway.
The EJ's Marching Girls.
A modified team for 5 to 8 year olds, and they formed very recently, just over 12 months ago, in 1990.
Followed by the Golden Square Concert Band.
Hockey Association, and their entry is a hockey field with hockey goals and a goalkeeper. They have representatives from all ages of hockey, from Minky, juniors, seniors and veterans. And hockey, of course, is now an Olympic sport.
Australia currently world champions.
They are indeed. Now we can see an entry from the Bendigo Coursing Association with greyhounds, pups and handlers from the Coursing Association in Juniton.
Rockhouse Rebels.
This, I think, is a 1955 Chevrolet sedan. And the Rockhouse Rebels have a typical 50s cafe scene with music and jukebox, and of course the display of 50s rock and roll dancing.
This rock and roll's coming back in a big way, isn't it?
It's popular.
If it ever went out. I don't think it ever did.
I don't know if it did either. And they also have a 1935 Chevrolet Coupe.
Bendigo Dog Obedience Club.
Members are demonstrating some of the club's routines.
A dog for every purpose there, I'd suggest.
It looks like it. Looks like it indeed.
complete with pooper scoopers,
Yes.
which is probably necessary, I'd say. The Bendigo Revival Centre.
And they won the category of entry best depicting the procession theme, which is music, music, music. See the Bendigo Theatre Company, formerly the Bendigo Operatic Society, formed in 1953 with their entry for their forthcoming production in June, South Pacific. Here we can see another platform from the Country Fire Authority, and in the distance the pipes of the Clan MacLeod.
Who traditionally head off the Chinese section, I think, don't they?
They do, that's
Always.
right. And they're the only band in Australia to wear the MacLeod of MacLeod tartan.
The Chinese section this year is larger than ever before,
Yes,
I understand.
the Chinese Association entry this year is traditional, and because of the museum, they've been able to collate all of the pieces that go into the entry, from lanterns to so many banners, and of course all the people involved as well, so it's quite a big entry.
I imagine the situation as it was before with this limited storage facilities they had, it'd be difficult to get some of the stuff out. But now
It was
with
an enormous job for them. Things were stored in all sorts of places, from garages to storerooms to companies.
But the new museum solved that problem, I understand.
That's right, and everything is now on display as it should be.
Even though I've described this procession for 15 years, I think I'm still at a loss to understand the total significance of the Chinese part of the parade. I do know, however, that it's broken up to sections. This part is the lead section, led by lanterns to light the way, gongs to tell people the procession is approaching, the open road banner, which clears the way for the procession, the greeting banner to thank people for their charity work, the King's Highway banner stating that this is indeed an imperial procession, and the only one, I think, out of mainland China, as I understand it.
It is indeed.
And of course the Australian flag, the China banner, the Dagum Sun banner. Dagum Sun means big gold mountain, am I right? I think I remember that much too. And the Poppet Head banner. That's the lead section of the Chinese
Following
Association.
the lead section is the religious section, which has quite a large contingent of dragon banners and a general on horseback protecting the throne of the local deity. Then we have Quang Kung, god of war and businessman.
That's a strange juxtaposition, isn't it?
It is.
War and businessmen.
And then we have the canopy of Quang Kung showing his authority, followed by fan banners showing his high personage, and that's followed by 3 religious banners, Lao Tzu, Confucius and Buddha.
Representing the main religious groups, of course. The third section, after the lead and the religious, is the military section. And in this, we find the military banners, the dragon banner, and also the military emblems.
And the military section is followed by the princess section, where we can see 5 colours representing the 5 peoples of China: old lanterns, flowers, modern lanterns, small flowers, umbrellas, and fan barriers, fan banners signifying a princess,
And we see right there.
blue silk banners, lotus, umbrellas, modern red lanterns.
So some of the pieces, as you say, are really quite historical and probably
They
not
are.
seen for a long, long time.
No. And here we can see some of the beautiful princesses with the umbrellas.
It never ceases to amaze me how they find the numbers to mount the section. There are literally hundreds of people involved in just the Chinese section.
I understand there's over 500 people involved in the procession, and of course there's untold people behind the scenes making sure everyone's got the right piece and the right clothing on.
Children form an integral part of the procession too, and this is the children's section that we see coming up now. The Gravel Hill Primary School formed the basis of this section. And an award was granted, actually, too, to the Gravel Hill Primary School this year, Best Primary Entry, Peter's Ice Cream Banner Competition.
And here we can see the Gravel Hill Primary students' entry just coming into view now.
With a mini dragon.
A mini Sun Lung, yes. Sun Smart Sun Lung. They were involved in the Sun Smart campaign with the Anti-Cancer Council earlier in the summer. And this is the first time we've had children's entry as a part of the Chinese Association's involvement in the procession. And a little sea lion there.
What a lot of work. I know I keep saying that, but goodness me, the kids, I assume, were involved in the construction of the dragon.
They have, as you can see by the detail, all the panels were individually made by the students, and of course they are the legs of the dragon as well.
I'm enjoying every minute of it.
Absolutely.
The last section, of course, in the Chinese section is the dragon section. The sun for day, the moon for night, the fish, the lobster, the crab, the butterfly. Then we also see the green dragon, the red bird, the white tiger and the black beast. And the mythological creatures, of course, too. Chai Lin, Phoenix, the white tiger. There's the greeting banner, the lion team banner, and protectors of the dragon and the children's lions. Now this is the lion team.
It is indeed. Following the lion team are gongs, drums and cymbals. And there he is, Sun Lung.
Just preceding Sun Lung, of course, are two more symbols, the twin calf from which the dragon is born, the pearl, which is the most precious thing in the sea, and the flame, which symbolises the sun, or light. And there he is. He looks more spectacular every year, I think.
He does, doesn't he? Sun Lung is being teased by a lantern carrier to lead him and show him the way. And Sun Lung follows the carrier throughout the procession.
And the appeal for more legs has worked once again.
It has. How many legs has Sun Lung had, I wonder?
This really is the most spectacular thing outside of China, I think, in terms of Chinese culture.
Absolutely. I think with the opening of the museum, Bendigo will be the premier. Even for China, this kind of regalia is not as colourful as it is here. I think we're very fortunate indeed to have such a cultural piece of history alive and well.
It really is spectacular. And that's the end of the procession. What does Sun Lung do now? He goes back to the museum, I assume.
Sun Lung does. He'll march to the end of the procession route at Chapel Street, and then he'll turn into Bridge Street and into his home in the Chinese Golden Dragon Museum in Bridge Street.
And this is the last day of the Easter celebrations. What's happening to round off things today?
This afternoon we've got a free entertainment program in Roslyn Park, where everyone interested in attending can see Christoph, the Itchy Feet Pet Band, and Buckley's 44, who are all involved in the procession. And that's sponsored by Bendigo's Community Health Services, funded by Vic Health, who are all working for children.
And what about the street carnival? Does that stay operating
The
for a little while?
street carnival, yes, will be operating well into tonight. And
And this is by magic. Tomorrow morning the streets are clear again.
by magic and courtesy of the hard-working staff at the City of Bendigo.
Right. Well, it's been another spectacular show. Congratulations. From your point of view, in your role as exec officer, it's been really fantastic. I imagine it must be a succession of heart-stopping moments putting this thing together.
There are a few, but I think just looking at the crowds and seeing the faces on people in the streets, that's the reward in itself.
That's what it's for, and it certainly, as I've mentioned a couple of times, does wonders for Bendigo and tourism.
Absolutely.
Diane, thanks very much for being with me.
My pleasure.
My co-commentator this afternoon has been Diane Cousins, Chief Executive Officer of the Bendigo Easter Fair. That's about all we can tell you from the streets of Bendigo. So without further ado, I guess we have to leave there, Di. Thanks again. Thanks very much for being with us this afternoon.
This has been another Southern Cross Network presentation.